Waiting for this. I believe we are live now, and I have to wait for the screen to pop up so I can actually then cut this off so it won't echo. All right, just 1 second. All right, got it. Here you go. We still there?
Yep.
Absolutely. And we have, and I don't want to butcher your name because I butcher almost everybody's name. Hemant Mata.
Yep. Hemant
I would
Mehta.
I would say it again.
Hemant Mehta.
Hemant Meta. Hemant Meta. Not like Meta World Peace. No, but Hemant Meta. Yeah. Definitely we have a legend in the building. We got Hemant Meta in the building. I told you guys, I put on my Facebook that all people of color, atheists, agnostics, secularists, free thinkers, or everybody, that I would have a special guest. And here we go. He is also known as the Friendly Atheist, as American blogger, author, and podcaster who has gained a large following online for his commentary on atheism and religion. He frequently writes about issues related to atheism, humanism, secularism, and has been a vocal advocate for separation of church and state. His resume is so long. I got like so many pages, and I'm still not gonna hit everything. You can Google him, Wikipedia him. Most definitely, he appears on the Atheist Voice channel on YouTube. Co-hosts the Friendly Atheist podcast. He has a podcast website, all of that. Former national board certified math teacher in the suburbs of Chi-Town, Chicago. Taught for 7 years. Appeared on CNN, Fox News, Wall Street Journal, Chicago Sun-Times, Seattle Times, Village Voice, National Public Radio, board of directors for Foundation of Beyond Belief, a charity organization that targets non-theistic donors. Secular Student Alliance whom create and supports college atheist groups and nationwide. He's the author of publications and books like I Sold My Soul on eBay, The Young Atheist Survival Guide. He edited Queer Disbelief podcast. That's he's famous for one of them called Supreme Court versus the Church and State Separation. First season is all about complicated history of the Pledge of Allegiance, YouTube series project. God is an abusive boyfriend. I was gonna get into. Yeah, and should break. Yeah, and you should break up. And I'm trying to figure out what that was that I. God
It
is in.
was a project that didn't go anywhere.
That didn't go anywhere. That got canceled. Yep. And that got a little bit negative press, a little bit in a way,
which is weird. Yeah, it was never actually written, so the negative press was.
And also I missed a whole lot because he's done so much, of course. So I didn't hit up every single thing, and I don't want to take up all of his time, so we don't have so much time with him, and I appreciate it for the time that he has. But I also, on his YouTube channel, the Friendly Atheist, he utilizes this a lot, which by Stephen, the Skeptics Annotated Bible. If you don't have this, check it out. I think every atheist, non-believer, agnostic, or anybody, even theists, should check this out. It's also online where it's updated all the time by Steve Wells. I actually interviewed Steve Wells on my YouTube channel. Click live.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the few that has him on video with his face showing us talking. And I know that you have interviewed him and you put up a podcast with his audio or whatever.
Yeah.
I believe. If you can correct me on anything I say later.
Oh, I think that's right. Yeah.
Right. And mostly audio, just like the guy Seth Andrews out of Oklahoma as well, Tulsa, and then I saw pure audio. But I believe that I was one of the first to put him with the audio and the video here on my YouTube channel live. You could check it out, which was not too long ago with Steve Wells with the video and audio. He even said it on there. But anyhow, can you give us some of your well, first and foremost, I put on another thing on my own personal thing I want to say. You can look this guy up on Chat GPT, the AI. If you put you know what's so crazy is I just was messing around with it, and I put the most popular black. I put black in specific terms. I put black um online atheists, and one time
Yeah.
your name had actually popped up. Seriously.
Oh
And I was
no,
like, I
someone
didn't
made a
know. Yeah,
mistake.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Right. And I said, what do you, huh? I was like, black. I didn't know he was black. But then again, and then later, I but I think they said, yeah, they put Mandisa Thomas, who I interviewed as well on live a year ago almost.
Yeah.
Big up Mandisa Thomas, wherever you at. Um, and so anyway, and then she popped up like, yeah, in there you did, and then some other people. But and I recently have put people of color and your name online, popular
Yeah.
atheist, and you definitely popped up there. And
That's funny.
you can't deny that you're a person of color, far as I am concerned. So I would, in you're like I said, you're definitely up there when it comes to just in general, without putting color or ethnic background, just putting the most popular online atheist. Definitely you are up there. Um, with Matt Dillahunty, who I know you've been on the Atheist Experience with, and things like
Uh-huh.
that. So if you guys are if you, especially if you're a person of color and you're an atheist, non-believer, secularist, humanist, you name it, and you have never heard of this guy, you've been living under a rock. I don't know what you know. So could you give us your ethnic background? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm Indian. Parents are from India. I was born and raised in the United States. Um, so that's, I mean, there's the ethnic background for you. I got involved. I think one thing that was different when I got involved with all this stuff is that I was one of the few people I met who were atheists who was not coming from a Christian background. Just
Mm,
because I wasn't raised with that. Whatever I knew about Christianity was stuff I picked up along the way, nothing that I actually experienced for myself.
right, right, right. And are you are you so obviously okay, you're based also out of Chicago area, correct? That's where you
Mm-hmm.
were born and raised, or
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yes.
so both your parents have an Indian background from India, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were born and raised in America.
Yes.
Okay, okay, because I never knew that right there. Now, how did you? I'm not gonna ask you to give your whole deconversion story at all because it would take forever. But in short, in brief, and summary, I guess if you can kind of, how did you come into this? Where
Yeah.
you no?
I think like a lot of people, I just when I was around high school age, 14, 15 years old, I started questioning religion itself for the first time. Not just how come no one knows about the religion I grew up in, but like why do people believe any of this stuff? And I never even thought to ask those questions, much less try to find answers. And
Right.
this we're talking around the time, I don't know how old you are, but like when I
Mm,
was around that age, there just weren't a lot of resources that I could find easily. So we're talking like late night internet dial
mm,
up sort of thing.
right.
And the only answers I could find are random websites written by people who just kind of type things in, I assume, their basement somewhere. And the weird thing is when I didn't know the word atheist, but when I start asking, why do people believe in God? Is there any reason people might not believe in God? Things
Right.
like that. The word atheist popped up, but whatever they were writing about it, whatever they were saying, why religion doesn't make any sense, I remember just thinking like that makes a lot of sense to me. And everything I seem to read about that subject seems to make more and more sense. And it didn't take long for me to start calling myself an atheist. Even if I didn't use that word, I didn't believe anymore. And so, that's early, that's high school. It wasn't until college when I started trying to actively meet other atheists, started a group on my campus with a friend of mine. And through my friend, I got involved with some of these national groups that were doing a lot of the activism when it came to church-state separation, promoting atheism before all those books that became popular by like Dawkins and whatnot. Before those came out, they were actively trying to get people to understand what it meant and not to
The good old
demonize the
days.
word.
Right?
Right. In some ways, yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of my entryway into that whole world. And after a while of doing that, it's like I kind of enjoy this, but I didn't necessarily want to take the route of working for those organizations. Not that they're bad, just it wasn't my thing. And yada yada, a lot of
You want to stay independent, right?
that makes it sound so much more cooler than it actually
Right,
was. It was more like I already
not that you wouldn't
thought
work with anybody or ally with anybody, but
it was more like I already had a career planned out, and atheism, activism wasn't a part of it. And so, but I ended up as a hobby just kind of writing about religion on a website for myself, and that became Friendly Atheist, which is the site I write for now, which like now I'm just writing about news stories, commenting on news stories, things like that. But that was a big shift from what got me interested.
And you're also going through the whole Bible. That's still the truth. He's going through.
Yeah, that's a separate project. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that I think you guys need to check out. He's going through word for word, precept on precept, jot and tittle. He's trying to hit up everything when it comes to that there. There was I might have cut you off a little bit.
No, you're good. That's it. The YouTube channel started separately a few years ago, but one of the things is I can always talk about current events, but it's on YouTube. It's kind of nice to have something people can always come back to. So yeah, I started going through the Bible just chapter by chapter and discussing it, and hopefully just mocking random stuff in there. But yeah, it was supposed to be like 1 or 2 videos, and now it's become a thing that just happens every week.
Right. Now, were you raised a certain denomination or a certain religion? That's what
Jainism.
I was looking for.
Jainism is the religion I grew up with, which is a smaller Indian religion. It's one that I don't think a lot of people have heard of, but by and large, like they don't necessarily believe in a creator god necessarily. They believe in nonviolence and don't hurt other people. Like it's a good philosophy.
Absolutely.
But they also believe in heaven and hell and karma and reincarnation and a lot of other supernatural things that I stopped buying into.
That I did not know that. That is something else. Now you have, first of all, have you ever been to Norway? Have you traveled?
Have I been? Have
you ever been to Norway, where I'm at now?
I haven't. I would love to, but no, I haven't been to any of like the Scandinavian countries at all.
Okay. Have you anyway, when you talk a lot about secularism, you're a heavy proponent on that. So what could you talk a little bit about that? What really got you into that?
I think what I realized when I started working with a lot of those atheist groups for a while, like again, we're talking like 20 years ago, this is at a time when people were actively promoting atheism. And I think part of me is the reason that didn't appeal to me as much is I was already an atheist. You don't need to convince me. I'm already there. The question is, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? And especially as more resources became available through books, YouTube, podcasts, whatever, like if you are an atheist or you're questioning your religion, there's a lot of resources out there to help you kind of steer your pathway to make that decision for yourself. But it seemed like if you ask people, what should we actually be worried about? What should we be thinking about? It's not the fact that a lot of people are still religious. It's that people who are religious are actively trying to push their faith on everyone else through politics, through laws. And that seems like a better use of my time, trying to warn people, this is what they're doing. This is how they're doing it. This is how we can stop it. Or let's rally together even religious people who oppose this stuff, because that would be important to do as well.
Something more practical approach.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I don't win anything if I make someone an atheist. I don't waste my time trying to turn someone atheist. What is interesting to me is, what are you doing with your faith? Even if your faith is wrong, and it is, like, if you're a Christian who happens to promote church-state separation and LGBTQ equality, it's very low on my list of things I should be concerned about. You know what I mean?
You hit a great point.
Mad, right? I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince that person why they shouldn't be a Christian, even if I do think that. So to me, it seems like a lot of the activism is much more, let's stop Christian nationalism. Let's stop conservative Christians from trying to push their faith through policy. And this is not only have a lot of the biggest atheist organizations come around to that point, they've actually found a lot of allies in religious organizations who agree with them. And I think that's good for everybody. I mean, honestly, there are very few, if any, big organizations that actively promote atheism. And I think that's a good thing, because you don't need groups necessarily to do that. And like, again, what good is it if someone becomes an atheist if they still harbor a lot of bigoted views or anti-feminist views or anti-church state separation views? Like, that's not better for anyone. So
tell me about it.
I'm glad to see
you're preaching now, man. You're preaching.
I'm glad to see a lot of the atheist groups kind of moving toward, let's stop the legislative issues from coming to fruition.
And that's what I liked about you and your approach. Like the late John Henry Clark, I don't know if you heard of him, but is a late historian. When I can't quote him verbatim, but he said something, if the religion, dang, I had it in my mind. But if religion, what he said is, if you don't use religion as an instrument of your freedom or your liberty, then throw that into the ash trays the ashtrays of history. And that kind of, what you're saying is it reminds me of that. If you can't use it for your liberation or for your, for a good use for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of right-wing atheist organizations that are so hell-bent on trying to make people atheists, and then they will go to like radical Christian conferences saying, hey, or at least radical conservative conferences, and say, some of you might be atheists, come with us because we'll help you out. It's like, yeah, but look at what they're supporting. It's a bunch of other conspiracy theories. So the fact that they might have figured it out when it comes to religion, that's not a win-win for me. So, I mean, there are some groups that are like, we're the only ones that promote atheism. It's like, yeah, you got the flat earth people to say they're atheists. Why is that better? Like, you got the people who claim there's election fraud or something stupid like that. You're not helping. You didn't do anything good. Stop patting yourself on the back.
True. Now, would you consider yourself on a side note, you made me think of something. Would you consider yourself atheist, agnostic, or mythicist? Or
yeah, I'm gonna keep it simple and just say I'm an atheist. It's the word that appealed to me initially, and I think it describes. I like the stigma that goes with it because I feel like I can try to counter it. Now, to be fair, I think atheism is one answer to one question. It doesn't tell you anything about what I do believe. So it's limiting, but usually people know atheists. They don't know humanists. They don't know mythicists. They don't know what any of that means.
Right. In my bad, you're correct. In my bad. And that's what I try to go a little bit into that. You're correct.
Right.
And exactly what you were saying. Far as supernatural and all that. I guess what I meant to say. Do you believe, let's get down to it, in the historical Jesus, to you, was he historical? And that's when you get a little bit more into the mythicist.
Right.
Uh,
And
uh,
I'm familiar with the people who take that. Like, the honest truth is, I don't care and I don't
I know you don't.
follow that debate. Like, so I know there are mythicists.
Right,
I know
right,
that's a popular topic for some people. I mean, the bottom line is, if he existed, he wasn't supernatural. And if
right,
he
right,
didn't
right.
exist, it doesn't change anything. So this goes back to the, do I want to debate religion with anyone? The answer is no. I find that's a big waste of time, because the bottom line
True.
is, I don't think the Christian myth is true.
Right,
And so once we're done with that,
right,
once that's out of the picture, let me
right,
focus on the stuff that
right.
seems
Oh,
worthwhile.
practical.
So a lot of the philosophy questions
Hmm.
that I know, like I've seen Dillahunty do this a lot. He
Hmm.
loves those philosophy questions and he wants to argue about that stuff.
Right.
And I'm usually just sitting there like, I don't care about
Yeah,
any
yeah.
of this
Your
stuff.
your your
Not
approach
my
is definitely
wheelhouse.
different. Right,
Yeah. I don't write about it. I don't talk about it. I'm
right.
hardly an expert on those things. And so I'm
Correct.
not saying the mythicists are wrong or anything like that. I don't know enough and I don't care enough.
And I figure that of you. But that and
Yeah.
like you said earlier, that you don't usually take a position, hence that's why I asked you on your personal opinion, not that you know for sure all
Yeah.
this. I was just
I
saying,
I
like far
don't
as when it
even
comes
have a
to
strong,
Jesus.
yeah, I don't have a strong personal opinion. I know that seems
Okay.
weird. I just don't think about it ever, and it
Okay.
doesn't play any role in my life.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah, yeah.
like, if it was a real human, like whatever, didn't have superpowers. So what do I
Got you.
care?
Got you. Got you. Got you. And I ain't gonna press you no further than that. Now, now what I will bring up is the question of race,
Yeah.
ethnicity, and things like that. When it comes to, which is not as talked about, but as of recent, you hear more and more people talk about racism or white supremacy and things like that. When it in the atheism space, when you have that controversial person, Robert Price,
Oh yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
that thing, and then also you hear Mandisa Thomas bringing it up sometimes, and other people bringing it up, and I've brought it up myself.
Mhm.
What is your thought on that? Well, first and foremost, your personal experience, coming up as, because you know a lot of people say that not just black people, but people of color, be it our ancestry comes from Africa, Middle East, Asia. A lot
Mm.
of times they say that we are the most spiritual people on the planet, naturally. And
Yeah.
so for us to become atheists or non-believers, you know, that isn't it even tougher than a, you know, so-called Western European
Yeah.
yeah, person. And I kind of want to know your thought on that, and then also your personal experience a bit, based on kind of because your ethnic and racial background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I personally don't feel like I've had any issues being a person of color in the movement, but that's me personally, not speaking for anyone else. I think the one thing where it does come up a lot, and I know Mandy says talked about this a lot too, a lot of the people who are famous atheists who wrote the books that people still refer to, the mistake I think a lot of them make is that they think, if I can logically tell you why the Bible is wrong or why you shouldn't believe in God, that ought to be enough. Then you
Mm.
will stop believing in God. You will leave your church. You will like see the light, whatever it is. And I don't think a lot of them understand or care about the fact that, like, if you are Black, it's not as simple as saying I don't believe this stuff, because the culture is tied in with religion in so many ways. That's
Mm.
true of Muslims. That is true of Hindus. That's true of a lot of people, of Latinos too, where it's like, you're asking me to stop believing in God, which is actually the easy part. But if you're saying, don't go to church anymore, or, fight against religion, you're basically turning your back on your culture, your family. And again, if you're not involved in organized religion, there's not always a lot of safety nets for people that you would find in a
Hmm.
strong church. So for a lot of people, they might have religious doubts, but church is the place where they have their friends and they're volunteering, and it gives them a job, it gives them connections and all that stuff. Unless there is a way to talk about those issues, which are a lot harder to move away from, like saying, look, I found contradictions in the Bible. Yeah, that's cute, that's nice, but like, I'm not gonna quit, I'm not gonna turn my back on my entire family
Real
because
talk.
of that.
Real talk.
And so that's really, I feel like that's a blind spot for a lot of old school atheists, where they think, if I can debate you, I'll turn you into an atheist because I have these arguments in my head. It's like, but it's not just an intellectual thing, because for a lot of people, if you want them to be like active atheists, you are asking a lot. It requires a lot more, a lot of different things. Like the God delusion does not touch on how do you handle turning your back on your culture? How do you do all that? I'm not even knocking the book. I have a lot of issues with Richard Dawkins, but the book isn't a problem. But the book is limited. And it's something he doesn't know how to discuss because he's never experienced it. He hasn't explained it well enough. But this is something where groups that care about these things, if they really want to attract more people of color, they need to do a better job of addressing those issues as much as they do other ones.
Man, you hit up some that I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm feeling that. Atheist space now. So what was you don't have to name any names at all, because you're all mainstream and everything. I know that. But I was wondering if you had these experiences, not personally growing up now, but I'm saying now as you share these platforms or you meet other bigger people, whatever, have you experienced, and maybe you just answered it, I guess, yeah, when it comes to the cultural awareness and where this is humanist spaces, atheist spaces, and more mainstream, have you kind of experienced and seen some of the things that definitely, yeah, or some of the things that can be improved that you
I mean, yeah, I haven't, I'm putting it right out there. I don't feel like I've personally been affected by it. But when you talk to other people, when you talk to women, when you talk to people of color, a lot of people I've talked to have had bad experiences where they might hear a flippant racist remark or a sexual remark or something like that. And you can, it's easy to see how that stuff is pushing otherwise great activists or people who are genuinely interested in this stuff away from the centers of those conversations. It's easy to see that happening. I feel one thing I can do is try to platform people who I think deserve more people listening to them, introduce people to more people they ought to be listening to, make suggestions to conference organizers like, hey, you should get these people to speak at your next event because they're really interesting. But if you ask people, like, name some famous atheists, odds are most people are going to name a handful of older white guys. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying their knowledge of who's a famous atheist and who the journalists go to if they want a quotation from an atheist, there is a very small group of people. And it's like, what should we be doing? Can we do anything to push more voices out there and say, this person's a Black woman who says a lot of the same stuff the white guys do, but how come you never talk to her? Well, let's give that person a platform with whatever levers we have at our disposal. Or here is a person of color who's talking about this, or whatever, a younger white guy that we have not heard from yet. That's kind of by the way, personally, I have encouraged atheist groups nationally. I've spoken to them about this, about how important it is to use their platforms to make sure people are introduced to younger atheists who may have different concerns than the ones we did 20, 30 years ago. And to some extent, I am seeing that happening. I mean, just to name one, I saw American Atheists, a big group in the United States. They're having a conference. Two of their speakers are like really popular TikTokers who I had not heard of, because that is not a platform I use regularly. But then I checked out some of their stuff. It's like, wow, they're really good, really articulate, really interesting, really funny. And it's like, I've never heard of them. And I do this for a living. And it's like, good. I'm glad they're getting a chance to introduce themselves to the American Atheist audience. That's fantastic. I hope other big groups follow suit and start inviting not just famous names, but like helping people become famous names.
Yeah, and you hit a good point when it comes to the small amount of people of color that are kind of known or famous or popular in this atheist group. So much so that I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first came across one of your videos or heard about you was when you were going through the Bible, and that because it was kind of convenient for me, and I was like, oh yeah, and he's he's kind of popular on YouTube or whatever, but I didn't realize how much popular you were, and I sure as hell didn't realize that your name was gonna pop up when I put into the chat GPT AI thing of people of color. So I was like, whoa, and then I realized, and then until I realized how small, like you said, that group is. I mean, seriously, like when you Google popular atheists in the world, you will see pictures of James Baldwin, Mandisa Thomas. Seriously, y'all Google it and check it out. I wasn't lying when I interviewed her, and she thought I was jiving probably and just trying to gas her up, but I'm for real. And if you don't have Tanisi, what's his name, Tahesi or Tanisi Coates?
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Ta-Nehisi, excuse me. I shouldn't be butchering the name. Ta-Nehisi Coates or James Baldwin, who's ancestor now, and your name will pop up in there, Mandisa Thomas. I'm serious. So it is a very
and again, part of that is we've been doing our thing for a while now. So we've been involved in groups. We've been putting ourselves out there in various ways. So yeah, it's gonna come up. But again, this is kind of the hard thing, because I sometimes get asked, how do you become more popular? And it's almost an unfair answer to say, well, just keep putting stuff out there, because you could do stuff every day. It doesn't mean people are going to watch it. What you need are boosts from groups or individuals who can help elevate your content, bring it to the eyes of other people. And, there are a bunch of small ways that you could make a huge difference to elevate voices you really want to hear. And I think this is where a lot of those atheist groups could take the lead. Like, you could really help bring more voices out.
Absolutely. And with that being said, after our interview, could you drop the link in one of your, you don't have to put in major, in one of your small, it could be your little Twitter. Just check out the real Nordic Black African-American in Norway by himself, trying to put up some content for people, whatever. If you could do that for me to boost me just a little bit, smidget, on one of your platforms, I would appreciate that. And I will send you a link afterwards. Now, is there anybody up and coming that you are focused and paying attention to?
Oh man, the answer is yes. Here's the problem. I didn't prepare for this, so I don't have their names off the top of my head. But here's what I do a lot. If I come across someone's video on YouTube or something like that, where I'm like, I don't know who this person is. They said a lot of really interesting things. I'm going to subscribe or add them to my news feed so that every time they post something, I will come across it. Same thing happens on Twitter. Like, I may not follow you publicly, but I have ways of like making sure I get what people are posting if I like what they have to say. There are a lot of times where they might make one video that I'm like, interesting, I can't wait to see what they do next. And then a lot of times they just fade away. Maybe it was one video they made and then they stopped making. I think I've encouraged bigger groups, like I think they should invest some money and time into making those people who have what it means, like you know how there are some people that are just really good at TikTok or YouTube and like
Tech savvy. They just really tech savvy,
yeah,
just straight up.
they
Yeah.
know how to make the right content,
In
but they
that,
may not have the
yeah,
viewership yet.
absolutely.
That's where I would love to see some of these groups say, we're going to create scholarships for people to make videos or
Right,
make TikToks or whatever,
right,
because they know how to use the platform. We're old, we don't.
right.
But we'll give you the resources to do it, because a lot of times it might be fun as a hobby, but if you
Mm,
can't do anything with it, you're gonna move on to things that pay you. I mean, which makes sense.
yeah,
So I kind of want to see more people try it, because a lot of young people have a lot to say about atheism that goes beyond just does God exist. And I
absolutely.
want to hear their voices, but unless there is a reason for them to be committed to making YouTube videos or whatever it is, they're going to disappear.
Right,
And that's
right,
unfortunate. Like churches are really good at scoping out talent and then bringing them front and center. We need
right.
to be better at it.
Absolutely, freaking lutely. I agree with you. And that brings me to one of the questions. Hate. Have you received a bunch of hate just in general of from being an atheist and a staunch, proponent of atheism and
I
stuff like that through your life,
I
and some
get
that
it.
you
I
can
get
recall?
occasional. I get some hate emails, not a
Mm,
lot, but I do get some. It's easy for me to dismiss them. There are some that are genuinely concerning because they're scary. It's not
yeah.
just an anonymous threat. It's something more than that. That's scary stuff. That has
Mm,
happened a couple of times too, and I'll take action if I need to. But by and large, because the stuff I write about and talk about, people don't get mad that I talk about atheism, and they don't get mad that I talk about my political opinions or
uh-huh.
whatever. So
Mm,
they might disagree, but I usually avoid hate mail because I'm not in your face about why you need to stop believing in God. It's more like, hey, a conservative Christian is trying to ban drag shows or LGBTQ rights or women's rights, something like that. And it turns out I have a lot of religious people who agree with me when I say those things. So I have managed to avoid a lot of the hate mail I've seen a lot of my friends get. But also I'm not doing much to inspire it, so I'm not sure
right,
why
right.
they would be mad at me about it.
Right, 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 right.
So I haven't, but it's not that I've
Hence,
avoided it
hence the
entirely.
friendly atheist. He's
Right. I
definitely
mean,
savvy, and he knows how to.
that's the
Absolutely,
idea,
I
right?
agree. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. So the ones that do come at you, that I believe it would be pretty scary and pretty serious,
Yeah.
because you don't, like you said, you don't come off trying to look for pick a fight, but unfortunately, you have some of these extremists
Mhm.
that just go. Um, Now I forgot to ask you a bit when we were talking about your background,
Yeah.
your day job, or in your schooling. When you went to school, in your background, as far as that, what was that?
I went to school for medicine. I ended up getting a grad degree in teaching. And so that's what I did as a day
Mm,
job for several years. But my hobby was working with some of these groups and writing about topics involving atheism, church state separation, things like
okay,
that.
okay.
And
So
it
you made it
was
you made it
stuff
work for you. Then you made it work for you, for sure, for sure.
I did it as a hobby, and then at some point, it's like I
No,
think if I had more hours in the day, like quitting
right,
my job, I
right.
could actually make a living doing this full time, making videos, writing about stuff. And I gave myself a couple of years to see if I could actually make it work. And if I couldn't, I would just go back to the classroom and teach. And
Right.
somehow I was able to make it work. So that's what I've been doing full time. So now I write about this stuff. If anyone goes to friendlyatheist.com, you can see what my writing is. But yeah, this is my day job now, writing about these issues, talking about these issues, things like that.
Absolutely. And underneath this video, when it's all said and done, I will be dropping every link that I can find of him underneath the video. And I want you guys
Mm-hmm.
to click like, subscribe, and check out his stuff. We're almost done. What other question came to mind while you were talking? Yeah, so you said your day job there, you went to school there. Oh yeah, so you were a math teacher though, right? Not history
I
teacher. You were
was. Yeah,
Okay.
right. I taught math. Very unrelated to
Yeah,
all
yeah,
this
because
stuff I do now.
okay, okay, okay. Nice, nice. Now, is there any upcoming projects or things that you can speak on or anything?
That I can speak on. I don't
Yeah.
know. What I can tell you, I mean, there are some things I'm hoping to try in the next year, like different
Right.
projects that I haven't done before, but
Okay.
I'm waiting to see if those will launch, and I don't know
Right.
the answer yet. But
Right.
for now, I think, I mean, I'm really enjoying writing longer articles about specific topics, like more quality over quantity. And I've enjoyed making videos too. Maybe try some different things with the podcast I co-host, and like different things like that. So right now it's just, let's see if I can keep making this work. Because
Right.
whenever you're creating content online, it is a constant struggle of, can I actually keep doing this and make it a full-time gig? And that's not always an easy answer.
Right. 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 Well, I told you and I promised you I was going to keep you under or on the on time. Is there any way I can get a little jingle to tell the people to please describe subscribe to the Real Nordic Black channel?
A jingle, damn it. Hey, go subscribe to the Real Nordic Black channel. Do it now. You know
Boom.
you want more of this.
That's what's up. And lastly, when whenever I send you the link via email, you whatever, if it's a quick tweet, very short, and then you replace it with other posts, I don't mind because you're so popular. I'm just saying, if you can just possibly throw it out there, I would highly appreciate it, and I appreciate
All
your
right.
time, definitely in your insight in your knowledge and stuff like that for the short time we had you. I appreciate you, seriously.
Right on,
Um,
Robert. Thank
and
you.
thank you very much, sir. All right, peace, and we are out, so we can
All
sign
right.
off. Bye bye.
All right.
Yeah,
Send me
yeah,
the
no, my
link
bad.
when
Oh
you
yeah,
have
oh
it.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, I will. Oh yeah, my bad. Last, why did I just, last thing for
Yeah.
anybody that is on the edge of thinking about religion, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Is there any message that you can give to anyone if you do have any? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep questioning, keep searching. Like
Yeah.
I would love to tell you, just read my stuff and you'll be good. But the truth is, no, you should read as much as you can. Read from people you agree with or you think you agree with. Read from people who argue the opposite,
Absolutely.
and figure out what makes the most sense. There's no expiration date here. You're not running out
Mm,
of time to make a decision. So keep questioning and keep exploring, and hopefully you will find people whose voices you respect and appreciate, at least most of the time. And I mean, I try to do that myself. My list of people I trust and I like what they have to say. I want to read everything they have to say. It's frequently changing. I add more voices to that list all the time. And I think that makes me a better writer. And I think that makes me more cognizant of what the issues are than I would otherwise.
mm.
So yeah, keep doing that. If you have questions, like, good, keep asking them.
Right, right, right. And I absolutely agree. So word from the wise. I appreciate your time and effort and everything that you
All
do.
right.
And a lot of people are of color are looking at you, even if you don't put that in the forefront of everything that you do, we are looking at you and you're doing a phenomenal job. And I really appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
uh, Thank you.
All right. And we